On the count of 3, everyone say their favorite video game. 1, 2.
F-Zero.
Okay. What's the best game console of all time? 1, 2.
Nintendo Virtual Boy.
Oh my god. Okay. Name the greatest lead character in gaming history. 1, 2.
Gex the Gecko.
What? Did we just become best friends?
Yep.
Do you guys want to go do some karate in the garage?
Yep. All right, I'll grab the nunchucks. Welcome back to another edition of the Karate in the Garage podcast. I'm your host, Mason Merrill, and joining me today is one of the co-hosts, the number 4 co-host, Aaron Bowen.
What is up, girlfriend? How are you today?
Oh, I'm doing good. How about you?
Well, you made me turn my fan off because it was picking up noise, so I am super duper sweaty because
Yeah.
I don't have air conditioning.
Dude, it's wild because we live here in North Texas. You know, everybody thinks about Texas as being like super hot all the time and all this. And you're up in Pennsylvania where people think of like, oh, New England, it's colder, you know, like all that. And it's definitely way hotter there than it is here today.
It's literally hotter here today, and it was also hotter here yesterday. Also, I only live a mile from the lake, like Lake Erie, you know, and you generally will get a nice breeze off of it. Not the case right now. I am very sweaty and stinky. But I'm also upstairs in my bedroom, so you know that doesn't help any.
Yeah, so we're gonna try to get through this podcast so Aaron can go take a shower.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
No, but yeah,
I never shower anyway.
Like breaking news, you're moving to Texas, bro.
I am. I'm so hyped. So like within a 48-hour period, I think it was about 48 hours. We sold our house or got it under contract. I mean, it's not officially sold. But we sold our house and then put it in an offer on the house that we wanted in Texas and got it picked up. And looks like we're going to be moving in about 4.5 weeks or so, right around there.
Yeah, it's crazy. You're closing a day apart from each other, from your old house to your new house. That's perfect slide in timing there. So.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of moving pieces and trying to be as organized as perfectly as possible. Probably won't go as planned, but we'll see what happens. Hopefully it'll all work out.
Yeah, so eventually we'll be doing this podcast in person, which is wild.
I know.
And then Weston will be the remote guy.
So nice. I could stare into your eyes while we do this. It'll be beautiful.
Yeah. So, yeah, as we mentioned, Weston's not here with us today. He's busy, but he'll be back next week. So, And also last week we did not have a episode
podcast
because we were all just super busy. You're selling your house and sick and everything in between. But yeah, so we decided to do kind of a double episode today with we had mentioned on our previous podcast we were going to do F-Zero for the Super Nintendo, and today we are bringing you F-Zero and F-Zero X for the Nintendo 64. So
yeah, it's pretty hype. I'm kind of excited to do like a little dual episode. This is fun.
Yeah, kind of like we can compare generations in like one little bit here. So it kind of be a test too, because like we might do some more of these if this works out pretty well, if it's not too crazy with trying to bounce back and forth between games. But
yeah, absolutely.
But yeah,
I think it'd be easier to play for like simpler games like racing games and fighting games and things like that. I don't know if we're gonna try and do this for like Final Fantasy or something like that. Dragon Warrior.
No. Just basically the same game made over again through the generation, kind of thing. Yeah. Basically that's what this was, So F-Zero originally was released in Japan November 1st, 21st, 1990, and then it was released about a year later in North America. So 1991. And basically, it was just a futuristic racing video game developed by Nintendo, of course. And it kind of took it was kind of it wasn't something that was in the forefront of my mind really until like Captain Falcon appeared in Super Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of where they were like, oh, let's make another one of these, kind of things. And maybe it was bigger in Japan as well because it did have some sequels and things like that. But kind of it was set in the city of like in the futuristic city of Mute City. and it had this one had 15 different tracks in it, and it was kind of just like a really fast-paced racing game overall. So
yeah, I mean it was definitely different from other games that I've played. Even just like having that energy bar that you kind of had to like manage throughout the entire race, let alone like, you know, if you ran into somebody or you went off the track, it would decrease it quite a bit more than if you stayed on the track.
Yeah.
And you could just randomly explode. And it was just bananas. It was a lot of fun. It was very different.
Yeah, so that was kind of like the basis of the whole thing was like you had an energy bar and there was power-up areas throughout the levels. And if you could if you ran out of power, if you used your boost too much, you would lose because you would explode. So that was kind of a different aspect of these games. It wasn't like your average Mario Kart where you had to finish the race. You could actually die in the middle of the race. So pretty interesting how that was.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed that quite a bit. It was cool too because like you have like, I feel like it kind of ran a little bit parallel to Mario Kart in some aspects. And actually like preceded it in some ways, like because the different cars have different weights to them and things like that. And I mean, like it's different because like in Mario Kart you have all the different abilities that you can throw at people, whereas in this, you know, you're just kind of throwing your vehicle at people. But depending on which one you pick, like I said, they have the vehicle has different weights and speeds and things like that that'll entirely affect how the outcome of the race at the end of the day. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it was that I definitely agree with that. How many characters were in F-Zero? I think it was it 4?
4.
Yeah, just 4.
4 in the first one.
Yeah, which is wild because if you jump to the next iteration of this, like that came out in the United States, there's like 30 characters. So it's like, could we have like at least 10 to start the game off? But kind of funny how that worked. But so as far as the gameplay goes, like you mentioned, it kind of had a Mario Kart feel to it, but with a different spin. So I definitely believe it definitely felt like it was made kind of on the same engine as Mario Kart. Like they took some templates from Mario Kart and just pasted them into this game and then redecorated them. And then, you know, in the first game, I couldn't really feel like, you had the miles per hour type thing and how, you know, what had the speed you were going, and it was like super fast and apparently, but it didn't feel faster than Mario Kart really when you were playing it. How'd you feel about that?
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think a lot of that is just like the system limitations and the way like a Super Nintendo would load up the tracks.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know, I could be wrong, you know, but I didn't feel, and there was what am I trying to say? Like it depended a little bit on the actual track that you were racing on.
Yeah.
Because some of them were a lot more windy than others. As far as like, you know, how the draw distance loaded up, because there was obviously, it doesn't, you know, the track loads as you're running across it, and it can only load so far because like again the system limitations. So if it's a windier course, you'll see more of the course up ahead of you versus just a straight shot. So I think that can affect the way the course feels as you're driving along it at the end of the day.
Yeah, I agree with that. So the different leagues in the game was the first league was the Knight League, second league was the Queen League, and then the King League was the main, and that was it. There's 5 races in each kind of circuit, and then at the end of it, it would total up basically all your wins, and as racing games in the vein do, and then you whoever has the most wins overall wins the entire series, the circuit. So the pilots in the game were Captain Falcon, Dr. Stewart, Pico, and Samurai Goro, which is interesting. And so they each had their own their own ship, which were Blue Falcon, Fire Stingray, Golden Fox, and Wild Goose. So I do like that even though they had kind of a few characters in this game, they put some effort into like naming them and naming their ships and things like that, So, and they did, I played is all of the characters in this game. I didn't do it in the SNES or the Nintendo 64 version just because there were so many, but they did have a certain distinction about them, and their stats were well balanced, but they were different, So, like certain ones were heavier than the other ones, and the maneuvering. Captain Falcon was just basically like the Mario of the game, where he was just balanced all the way around, So I played as him most just because I liked that, but like. I think it was Samurai Goro was a lot faster than the rest of them, but his handling was a little wacky. So anyway, but that was cool. As far as they put some effort into it, and they actually had a little bit of a kind of like a story to this game. And I keep saying I'm going to find those booklets when we play these games, because I think that's where it was kind of explained, was probably in those booklets. But basically, the story of the game was that it's set in the year 2560, when humanity's multiple encounters with alien life forms had resulted in the expansion of Earth's social framework into like a technological, commercial, and cultural interchanges between different planets. So it goes on to explain some of that story, but that is kind of cool. Like we talk about less is more in some of these games, and they didn't have much to work with, or they probably could have thought of more to work with, but they really made with what they had. So that was pretty cool.
Oh, absolutely. And the thing that's cool too with the game, I mean, like, as far as like the gameplay, we were talking about how there's only 4 characters. You're not just racing against 4 people in a race.
Yeah.
Like, there's more. I think there was generally like 7 or 8, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
In one race, and so there's more there, but you're just kind of racing as the quote unquote like hero protagonists,
exactly,
and not just as like any old Joe Schmo in the race. So that's kind of a fun little way to pursue the game, I guess. Whereas in most racing games, you have access to everybody that is ever going to be in a race. So that was pretty neat.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. Also to note, there was an 8-page comic book that was included in the Super Nintendo manual. So that's kind of
really?
Neat. Yeah. So that's kind of where it set up some of this backstory and stuff. But yeah,
I miss the days of manuals, man. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I know.
That was the best.
I know, man. I need to remember that. I need to note to like start finding those PDFs when we play these games, so we can, because I feel like that added so much to the game back then too. Because that's where
absolutely did.
Really, where they explained a lot of story and stuff like that.
Yeah.
For instance, like this one. So.
That's where you got the story. That's where you got the art. What have you?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, pretty cool. So, as far as the art in this game, it was pretty understandable. I've played some racing games in this, other than Mario Kart. I played some other racing games on Super Nintendo that have not been so understandable. Not like you could tell you were on this type of planet and this is the setting you're in, and the sprites were really nice. The cars or the I don't know. They're like more like jets than anything, but they were animated really well. Like, what was your kind of take on that?
No, I agree actually, and it's funny because it's like, because I have I played this on the Super Nintendo, and I have Mario Kart for the Super Nintendo as well, and I actually enjoyed playing this quite a bit more than Mario Kart, because I felt like, and I don't know if it's just the way the camera angles are set up above the vehicles or what have you in F-Zero, but I felt like it was actually much easier to understand where you were on the track and what have you going through everything than even in Mario Kart. So I actually really quite enjoyed that quite a bit, as that aspect of the game quite a bit, because you're right, there's a lot of games where it's either very bland graphically, and you're not 100% sure where you're at in the track, or what even the next turn is and what have you. So because a lot of those older games felt very flat in general, and they didn't obviously they didn't really incorporate any 3D technology into the games at that point on the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
But just the way the cameras were laid out in this made it feel a little bit more three-dimensional. Other than I think it was the very first track, if I remember correctly, was very not fun. But then after that, I had a blast with the game.
Yeah, I agree. And the very first track was in Mute City, which was number 1. There's 3 Mute City tracks, 1 for each league, and each of them kind of got a little more intricate as you went. But overall, were the same track. They're just with different kind of spins to them. So, but yeah, I agree with that. It was very it was unique, but also the same in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
so,
it felt familiar.
Yeah. So, and they had a bunch of tracks in this game, 15 tracks, which was pretty good for, a Super Nintendo game at the time. And, I'm looking at it, just kind of an overview of all the tracks right now, and they were made really intricately. There's a lot of cool designs, and, there's some shortcuts and some long cuts and things like that in each of or in some of the tracks that really added some depth to it, to where you could get the edge on the the players. And it was in the game, I think, just like I think the one thing it didn't translate well was just how fast you were really going, but I can't see them really translating that to this kind of platform anyway. It's just, you got to believe you're going that fast, because it would just be overwhelming if you're shooting pixels at you at the rate of, say, the Nintendo 64 version was,
Exactly.
And, I played a game similar to this when I'm a huge Power Rangers fan, and they had Zeo Battle Racers game. Oh my gosh. I actually played it recently when I played this game, when I played F-Zero. Really? Just awesome. To line them up, it was so much different. Zeo Battle Racers was absolute trash. Like, I played I remember playing that game as a kid and loving it and thought it was so awesome. But like, compared to F-Zero, it was kind of like obviously a battle race. You were fighting as you were racing, and like, there were like, a different Rangers, and like, there was like the Gold Ranger and the Red Ranger were the exact same thing, just color differences. Even the helmet was the same when they had designs on him at that time. Like, the Red Ranger had a star, and the Gold Zeo had like a different thing, and he also had like the armor. Like, it was just the Red Ranger over again without the armor, still had the star on his helmet, just black. So, that's hilarious. But anyway, we're not reviewing that game. But just saying, like,
we are now
with F-Zero, like, in the same vein, just did such a better job of making it more playable and understandable to the user, 30 years later, literally 30 years later. So, as far as, I think the only real drag to this game was, you had mentioned earlier, was there was no multiplayer.
Yeah, I think that was really the big thing for me. Because, I like to play games with my son, and he was like, hey, can we play a video game together? And I was like, you know what? I got to do this game for the podcast. Let's load it up and play together. And I loaded it up, both controllers in hand, and he was very sad that this was not multiplayer. And I was kind of bummed too. And I wasn't really sure why it wasn't. I know, like, a lot of modern games aren't multiplayer, because of hardware limitations for like split screen and things like that, and I guess I sort of get that. But like we said, this game feels very similar to like Mario Kart in its graphics and integrity and everything, and there doesn't really feel like a reason why it shouldn't be at least 2-player split screen. It just seemed very odd to me that it wasn't.
Yeah, they did, like you said, they did it with Mario Kart. Like, why couldn't they translate it to this game in some way? Which is just wild to me. But yeah, I mean, that was really the only drawback. And at that time, I think, remembering back, I think we did rent this game all those years later, and that, as a kid, like, me and my brother loaded it up. We're like, all right, we're gonna play some F-Zero, and it was one player, and we were like, oh. And then I went outside and played, and he played it, kind of thing. So, like, I don't even think I even played it back then, but I think I think that was the factor, was there was no multiplayer. So,
Yeah, it's a very odd choice to have this not have multiplayer. And like I said, I mean, I'm sure there's an explanation for it, because I don't think that they would make a racing game that just doesn't have it. And they're like, you know what? No, this game's meant to be played single player. No, that's insane. Like, I don't know if it was a hardware limitation or a memory, whether it be like a RAM memory situation or an actual like data, like storage memory situation that they couldn't put it on there. But there has to be a reason why they didn't do it. It just seems ludicrous that there wouldn't be multiplayer.
Yeah.
Like I said, even 2-person multiplayer, let alone 4.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they had enough characters. There was 4, so that equals.
Yeah.
The one thing I'd be interested to know that I don't think there was, but I don't think there was an arcade version of this game. Like some of the NES games were ported to arcade, but I don't think there was for this one. I
don't think so. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure. I mean, well, I don't know. There might have been after it came out for console. I don't think this was a arcade game that got put on the console.
No, it definitely wasn't. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
it was
I don't know
Nintendo.
though.
It doesn't look like there was. Usually, there's something in here about it, but yeah. So
now, I could see this being a situation where in like an arcade they had this set up with like 4 like those big old like racing simulators with like the wheel and the pedals and everything that they have in the arcades. I could see a situation where they have like 4 of those set up next to each other separately where you're playing together but on your own screen.
Yeah.
Like they would for a lot of games. I could see that kind of situation where you have 4 separate sets of hardware.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? But yeah, that's really the only thing I could think of as far as them putting this into the arcade and having it have multiplayer attached to it in any way.
Yeah, exactly. So, as far as the audio in this game is kind of like the last little point. It wasn't anything crazy to me. Like it didn't make me feel any sort of way. Like there wasn't much gameplay sound effects that were different than the other ones. None of the cars had different sound effects or anything. It was just like acceleration and, like I said, I think maybe that could have engaged me a little more too. Like if it had better audio quality with like the speed you were going, but it didn't. Nothing much to write home about here. So.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like the sound effects were really annoying. It reminded me a little bit of when we were reviewing Mega Man X and you guys were complaining about like the wind up noise for his gun charge.
Yeah.
And like that's kind of what it reminded me of, where it's just like this constant whine of the engine that just doesn't really need to be there.
Yeah.
And on the flip side though, the music I actually did kind of enjoy, because I enjoy like some of that retro 8-bit music, and I actually I have an album. I don't remember if it's Game Chops and Holder or just Game Chops or Holders, one or the other. But it's like they redo old retro music with like it's like a drum bass kind of electronic synthesized music, and but they did the first track with,
really?
like the theme song, like the first track's music, and because when I was playing the game, actually I think I texted it to you guys when I was playing it and I was listening to the first track, I was like, sounds really familiar, and then I went into my music collection and I found it and I was like, yes, this is what this is, and
Boom.
It's so good. Like that redone version of it. Obviously, Super Nintendo's going to have its limitations when it comes to music and things like that. But that just kind of sparked a little bit of extra interest for me as far as the music was concerned. At least I enjoyed that.
Yeah. So cool. Yeah. Well, unless there's anything else that really you wanted to talk about with this game, I think we can kind of put it to bed here.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So let's rate this thing. And what are we going to rate with? I think we should rate it with Falcon Punches.
All right. You go first, though.
All right. So the game was good overall. It wasn't like hard, hard to play or anything. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. So I it's going to be 5 out of 10 for me, 5 punches out of 10. So.
All right. I think I'm going to go just a smidge higher than that and say 6.
All right.
I did really enjoy it. And actually, I mean, like my kids got a kick out of it too. because they like it's single player, so obviously I was just letting them play with it, and they were having a little bit of fun with it because they were trying to make the car explode intentionally. But it was fun. I think really I would give it probably a 7 or 8, and I would play it again if it had multiplayer. But other than that, I'd probably put it to bed at a 6, and I don't personally think I would pick it up to play again, like just solo myself.
Yeah, especially not having a multiplayer version on your your Super NES Classic. Like you're not gonna play this with your kids, so why would you play it? Honestly.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, and it was just super average for me. Like there was a lot I liked about it, but there were some glaring factors of it that were like, ugh. So like I can't really hate it, but I can't really love it either. So
yeah.
All right, cool. So moving now, we're gonna fast forward to the future a little bit here, and we're gonna go 7-8 years in the future to July 14th of 1998.
You gotta put some time travel sound effects in here real quick.
Yeah, I'll put like a zoom or something. But July 14th, 1998 in Japan, F-Zero X for the Nintendo 64 was released. And whoa, this was a different game.
Yeah, it really, really is. I mean, it's so much bigger.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, just the fact there's 30 characters in it.
It's wild.
It's so much bigger, and there's 30 people racing at the same time.
Yeah,
which I don't think had ever at that point been done in a game.
No,
I don't really, other than maybe like playing like a stock car game, like Grid. There might be like 15 or 20 cars, like in a stock car race, like a NASCAR style race, in at once. I've never played a game that had this many race cars on the track at the same time. It's just bananas.
Yeah, dude, it was wild because you like whenever I would be playing this game and I'd be like, oh man, I'm doing good, and it's like you're in 9th place. I was like, what? I just passed like 20 people.
Oh yeah,
So yeah. It's like,
and they go so fast too. It's crazy.
Yeah. So where I was talking about the last game that it didn't translate the speed in the game, this game definitely translated the high speed futuristic feel that they were trying to continue on with this game. And where the first one fell short, obviously graphically wise and everything, but like in the layout of it all, this one did very well. There was a multiplayer mode to begin with. And that was good. And then there was like the I don't know, like you had mentioned to me that they said this was maybe the hardest game on Nintendo 64 at one point.
I don't know, man. I had looked up because we all make our own quizzes and everything, and I was looking up like what's considered to be like the hardest game of all time and stuff like that. And I feel like this game was on the list. And I could be wrong. It might have been another version of F-Zero game. I don't remember honestly, but I could have sworn this was on the list. And when I was playing it, I didn't really feel like it was outrageously difficult.
Yeah. What did you play on? Did you play on expert or standard?
Standard, yeah.
Standard, yeah. I did them all just to see. And
okay.
Novice was, it was workable. Standard was hard for me. Like I don't even think I won a race. And then expert, there was nothing. Like I was like blowing up and like I mean it was wild. And there's an unlockable mode. I didn't unlock it, but there's a master mode, which I can't even imagine that. So so basically same setting here. Mute City, they've made contact with aliens. It's really futuristic. Mute City. There was let's see, there were more. I think there were the same amount of tracks. 4, 5, 20 tracks in this, or no, 24 tracks in this game. So there were more tracks.
Okay, a little bit more. Yeah.
But a lot of characters. A lot of characters.
Yeah.
I played as Captain Falcon, obviously. Because he's the first character, number one, and then I went through kind of some of the other ones, but always ended up back with Captain Falcon. Before you started the game, there was a meter that you could adjust. I thought that was a pretty cool feature, whether you were just like
was pretty cool.
Lights out fast, or you had better acceleration to get to the fast, and you were more handled. I think once you got over like 1,000, it wasn't miles per hour, but whatever the measurement was,
Kilometers?
Yeah, sorry.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was km. So once you got over that,
units.
Your handling went wild. You were turning.
Yeah.
Like, if you nudged that joystick a little bit, you'd be off to the side. So you really had to pay a lot of attention once you got going really fast.
It was not because it was almost like the one thing like the first game did really well, I thought, was the drifting. I thought the controls were really tight in the first game as well, and they were in this. But you're right. Once you got to a certain speed, it was almost just like the drifting controls were automatically engaged, and so if you turned a little bit, you were turning a lot.
Yeah.
In reality, it was bananas.
Yeah, it really kept you on your toes through the race. So I thought that was a cool mechanic. Like, it could get annoying, but at the same time, like, you're going super fast. I think that's one way where I was saying, like, I wish the speed would translate. That was one way it translated for me in this game, especially.
Sure.
And you were just going super fast anyway. So, like, you had way more game speed here to work with in this. And it was kind of, the tracks themselves, they had like the tube kind of feature where you could go on the ceiling.
I hated that so much. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was hard to get back down to the before you exited, so you'd always like flip off and lose speed and things like. Or I would. I'm not speaking for.
I did a little bit.
People who played this a lot, but that was one thing in the game. But there was 4 modes, or let's see, there's 3 modes: the cups, death race, and time attack. So the death race was like a battle, which was cool. You were just on a straightaway, and you would try to eliminate the other 29 racers off the track as fast as possible without eliminating yourself. So that was cool.
Yeah.
But
it's difficult.
Yeah.
That's difficult.
Yeah, you could go for a long time, like trying to win that, So and you have to really watch, obviously, as the first one brought into fruition was you could blow up if you lost energy. So they kept that system in this game, and you had to hit those energy pads, or you'd be SOL in this game.
Yeah,
you'd be done.
Real.
So
they had the rival system in there too, which I thought was really interesting. Yeah, and I don't really know how it functioned. Do you know much about it?
Yeah, so I think it was just a story plot. Basically, it was like, that's your rival.
Was it? And
I don't know if it made any difference. Like,
well, the reason I brought it up was because I play Grid a lot on Stadia.
Yeah,
and that has a rival system where essentially if you run into somebody throughout the race several times, they will become your quote unquote rival during that race, and they will also try to run you off the track and block you from going further and whatnot. And I didn't really see that interaction a lot, but I wasn't sure if maybe like it got more engaged on a higher difficulty setting, if that was kind of a similar interaction. But I'd never seen that in a game other than Grid before, and so I thought that was kind of interesting. Again, assuming that that's actually what it did. I didn't really have a lot of what am I trying to say? A lot of experience with that rival system in F-Zero.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was, but I didn't feel it either. So that was kind of
It did. It was maybe more like a gimmicky kind of thing than anything.
Yeah,
really.
Like, oh, that's your rival. Try to beat him. Like maybe that just enticed you in your head. But So basically, the gameplay itself was really smooth to me. How'd you feel about it?
Yeah,
it wasn't glitchy.
Oh, it is. It's no, not at all. So a little fun fact about this game actually is. When you look at the game, it's clearly not a very good-looking game. Like, it looks like it's released in 1998. It looks probably worse than games that were made in like 1993 for arcade games and things like that. So they actually intentionally minimized the graphics and like the polygon counts and everything so that they could lock the game at 60 FPS. Okay. Which I think is a huge thing for a game that is intending to go as fast as possible.
Yeah.
You like the whole point of the game is to just go ridiculously fast. And so you have to have a very smooth experience, and it has to be, you can't have glitchiness with 30 other people on the track going 1,000 kilometers an hour and swerving all over the place. The nice thing about the game is that it does kind of lock you on the track in certain instances.
Yeah.
It felt a little bit on the rails. In the sense that like in a Mario Kart game, you can fly off the map. Like you can just go completely off into the water and things like that.
Yeah.
Where I didn't really feel like that ever happened to me in this game.
You could. There was definitely things like that.
Okay.
Because, I mean, that's really how you won the death race and things like that too, is knocking other people
Okay.
off. But I did fly off a few times. But
did you? Okay.
But
I never had that happen. I just wasn't sure like if it was just me or what.
Yeah, and the tracks in this game were different from F-Zero for Super NES. So there was like twists and turns. The tracks in this game were just straight away, you know.
They were pretty straight, yeah.
You didn't have to do a whole lot of turning and all that. And actually turning was almost your enemy because you would fly off the track if you turned too much, like we said, when you got at that higher speed. So
Right. Yeah, I played Pico for the most part, and I do not think I hit the drift buttons, but maybe one or two times, like the entire time. And I came in first, like several, because I did the first cup, and I came in first place probably like 3 or 4 times.
Okay,
and
cool.
Yeah, like
Nice.
and like just didn't really use the drifting or anything. Just kind of swerving in and out of people. It was tight enough that you could just use the joystick to move around.
Yeah. One thing that's cool about this game, and I don't know, maybe it was in the booklet as well, each character, they had 30 characters, and each character had a backstory. Like you just mentioned Pico. His backstory was Pico used to work for a special unit of the Poripoto Army. He's aggressive but calm. Rumor has it that he's also an infamous hitman, and his age was 123 or so, he says.
Nice.
So yeah, it's kind of cool that they had like different backstories for each character, and kind of
that is pretty cool.
Like you could, maybe some of it was left to imagination as you were playing the game or whatnot.
Right.
But pretty cool. Like it wasn't just a bunch of racers thrown into the game, and I didn't honestly, I didn't play it enough to like feel the differences between the characters. How about you?
Yeah. No, I'm in the same boat. I really when I saw that there was 30 and I had to unlock all of them, I was like, I'm not down for that.
Yeah, there's a couple buttons you could press to just go ahead and unlock everybody.
Yeah,
I'm
not.
Cool.
I'm not a cheater. I don't know. I don't like to cheat in video games.
It's built in, okay?
I know. But yeah, I didn't do that. I just, like I said, I just stuck with Pico and just kind of ran through it. I tinkered with the acceleration versus top speed a little bit. And I think that's kind of depends on the track you're on too, as far as what you're going to do with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think for the most part, I felt like I just stuck with him. I'm like, I'm doing well with him.
Yeah.
I'm just going to keep on going, kind of thing.
Yeah. So the cups in this game were named after like cards, like F-Zero Jack Cup, F-Zero Queen Cup, F-Zero King Cup, and F-Zero Joker Cup. And then there was the X Cup, apparently, but there's no tracks that are listed for that one. It must have just been other ones. So
interesting.
There was a track named Rainbow Road in this that was play on the. It was a remix of the Mario 64.
Really?
Yeah. So it was kind of like Rainbow Road for N64, which is cool.
That's kind of cool. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So one thing to note in this that was so awesome was the audio, man. It was just straight metal. And if you like metal, it was like a lot of double bass, a lot of guitar solos. And the high pace of the music made you feel like you were really playing a fast-paced game, that much more so. So that I'm not sure who produced the music here, but man, it was good. It was just just an awesome score to this game. Really good stuff.
Yeah.
So
was it, because I couldn't get my audio to work for the game. So let me ask you, as far as like track to track, was it fairly different? Like each song on each track?
I wouldn't say it was like, how much different? Metal can get different
I
and
know,
things
I
like
know.
that, but like it's still
Yeah.
all really fast paced. But it didn't like, I didn't hate it. It didn't get overwhelming to me.
Okay.
And there was like lyrics too, like like
Oh, really?
like you know how like the metal does like the grungy like scream type thing. It was like rah, 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 rah. Yeah, there was like lyrics like that and stuff too.
That's hilarious. Was it in Japanese or English? That's the real question.
Yeah, I think it was in English, but
oh man,
it was produced.
I would love some
by Japanese producers. So
I would love some Japanese metal. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
that's the good stuff.
Yeah,
right
you should
there.
fire it up and figure out how to get that audio working, because
I might. I should. Yeah, I should try that because it's like I've been playing like Power Rangers Battle for the Grid, and like that whole soundtrack is metal, but it's like there's like 2 songs. Like it's super repetitive and annoying after a little while.
It
and I just like shut the sound off.
Yeah,
this is
you gotta.
So boring. Like I'm trying to like play the story mode and read through the screens, and it's just like screaming metal in the background. I'm like, all right, guys, settle down, please.
Oh yeah. No, the arrangements in the game were really good. Like
That's awesome.
It added so much to what was going on, you know. And while a lot of it was metal, there was some like techno vibe to it too as well. So that was cool, like the futuristic techno. So it was really well thought out. Like the soundtrack definitely added a lot to this game for me. Sound effects were overall pretty good too, like the count ins and things like that. And
Sure.
you know, there's obviously just the fast paced, you know, explosions and racing type you know, sound effects and stuff. But bravo to that, because like you can tell they put a lot of time and effort into producing that, you know.
I'm gonna buy the soundtrack for you for a present now.
You should. I'm sad Weston, because he's the real metalhead, you know.
That's true. Yeah.
I'm sad Weston didn't play this, because like he would have been like, oh dude, yes. Like Weston was the guy when we were like 16 that would take me to Mastodon concerts, and you know,
yeah.
I'm like the lanky white boy at the Mastodon concert getting my face pummeled, you know.
Oh man.
But good stuff there. So should we have the same rating system for this? Is there anything else you wanted to talk about with the game, or ready to move forward?
Not really. I mean, I think we covered it pretty solid.
Yeah, cool.
It was decent.
Awesome. Yeah, so Falcon punches. Let's do Falcon kicks for this one.
All right, fair enough.
All right, so for me, this is an 8 out of 10. Graphically, could have been a little more, but it was good, like you said, with this FPS type thing. Like, totally understand that. So 8 out of 10. It was a great game. Multiplayer, I would, if I found this, if they released this on Switch virtual console, I would play it like with my kids.
Yeah,
you know, like it would be so much fun to, or just you and I pick up and play one day. That'd be
for
fun.
sure.
So
yeah, I was gonna go for a 7 on this.
Okay.
Just because I think it was definitely a step up from the original game, obviously.
Yeah.
And I mean, I would say graphically, it's probably not a step up.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's kind of a little bit of apples and oranges sort of thing, but it's really just the graphics suck. But the gameplay makes up for it because of how tight it is.
Yeah.
It's wild gameplay because you're going so fast with so many people. Yeah. I would probably match your 8 if I knew what the audio was like. Honestly, I might take it down to a 6 if I knew what the audio was like. I don't know. It depends. I'd have to listen to it.
Might ruin
like
the whole
audio.
Thing.
Yeah, I have no
perfect
idea.
dark.
I know. But I did have fun with the game, and you're right. Like I was playing it earlier, thinking like, man, I would love to play this with the guys.
Yeah.
And just go bonkers on a map together.
Oh yeah.
I think it'd be super fun. It did feel a little bit on the rails though at times, and I wasn't a big fan of that, and I don't necessarily. I'd have to unlock all of the playable characters to really say this in a non BSing kind of way, but I just feel like having that many characters can't have that much differentiation in the character gameplay.
Yeah.
And because the graphics weren't great, most of the carts or the ships looked sort of similar, so it's not like you're like unlocking like some really cool looking spaceship, because they all kind of look sort of similar. It's like if you play like Destiny or Destiny 2, like there's like a million there's different spaceships, and they come out with like 5 each season, and they all look super cool and super different because their graphics are ridiculous and they look super cool and super different. And in this, it just wasn't enough to differentiate. Now there might be unlockable characters that are like all like AAA stats and you just broken and stuff like that. I don't know, but just going off of what I've seen, it seems a little bit unnecessary to have 30 characters unlockable. And like I said, it's just not quite perfect top tier. Go back and play it every few years kind of game, but it was still really good. I still really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I didn't hate the amount of characters in it. Usually I'm like, oh, racing game, especially something that's not like a well-known property, like with the characters. Like Mario Kart, bring all the characters. Like, I'm fine with that.
Right,
But
right.
for this, usually I don't like it, but, obviously they had to have 30 characters. It would just be a bunch of remakes, because the races were 30 characters each. So
right, and that's my thing is like I don't mind that there's that many at all, like especially like in the race. It just didn't feel particularly necessary as like a selling point of the game, I guess.
No, I agree with that 100%. So
like Capcom versus SNK, there's a bajillion characters. Mario Kart or Super Smash Brothers, a million characters, because they all play different, they all look different, and it's fun. But with this, it just didn't feel like it was really necessary.
Yeah, and in Japan, they actually came out with an expansion kit to this game that added a course editor.
Yes,
and you could create your own machine too, which is cool.
Yeah.
And
that was super popular because it was basically like the same thing as what the dev kit, like that the developers used to make the game, is essentially what they gave to people to make these new tracks. It was really cool.
Yeah, and there were more machines and more characters in the game, which I don't even know how you make it any bigger, but okay.
I do not know. Yeah.
But so that's pretty cool. So. Anyway, so I think that's just kind of putting a pin on this. This was definitely a really fun experiment to do with playing two.
Yeah.
Do it like a double header here, but the jump, like sometimes like I'm like, oh, the SNES version didn't jump for me to Nintendo 64 because of the graphical type thing versus like being animated, but the graphical thing really was good for me. Like this game, the Nintendo 64, it made me feel the speed of the game. I felt like I was more in the setting, which was cool. So
no, I 100% agree. Yeah, I mean the jump is clear.
Yeah,
and I mean, like I said, like the graphics on the N64 version aren't great, but the performance is outstanding.
Yeah.
The how smooth everything is. There is no hangups whatsoever at any point. There are no graphical errors. And you felt how fast you were going and how tight it was. It was very nice.
Yeah.
I completely agree with that.
Yeah, I think me and Weston sometimes before you were on, we would talk about like characters that, especially in a Nintendo game, that we would like to see in Super Smash. Obviously they've had Captain Falcon since day one, but I think I would really like to see a little bit more of, maybe one more character from this series since they had so many, and they had backstories. Like, for instance, Black Shadow, the King of Evil, strikes fear in the hearts of everyone. His goal is to destroy Captain Falcons in front of millions of viewers. So, like, that's kind of Captain Falcon's rival.
There you go.
Or James McCloud. He's been like a helper in the Super Smash series. But there's also a character in here called Blood Falcon, and he's just like a different color scheme of Captain Falcon, and that is actually in Super Smash. So
that's cool.
Funny.
Nice.
So. All right, cool. Anyway, kind of moving on here. Talking about next week. I had a couple suggestions for you. If you had any suggestions, I had suggestion The Adventures of Batman and Robin for the Super Nintendo, or NFL Blitz, or Link to the Past. So those were my suggestions. Did you have anything you wanted to bring to the table?
I always forget to make suggestions. I always do. It's just so hard to pick all these old games. It's so hard to pick one because it's just like overwhelming. It's like, oh, I want to play this, I want to play this, I want to play this.
Yeah.
And then I want to play like a classic game, but I don't want to play like a game that everybody's already played and seen and heard about and things like that. It's hard. I don't know. It's just hard for me to pick. I'm going to rant about 40 minutes deep about why it's hard for me to pick. But Of the games that you did suggest, I kind of want to play NFL Blitz.
Yeah.
I think that'd be fun.
We haven't done a sports game, unless you consider, I know racing's a sport, but like an actual sports game in a while. So I'm down with that.
And the racing games we've done are like fantasy sport racing games, like Mario Kart and stuff. Like they're not like actual like racing sim games.
Exactly. So, I'm down NFL Blitz, and let's play the Dreamcast version. Does that sound good to you?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, cool. All right,
let's do it.
Right on. So, NFL Blitz for the Dreamcast coming at you next week, and
2001.
2001. Yep, NFL Blitz 2001. So I think that was the first. Was that the first one, or no? Blitz 2000 was the first one.
Sure.
So you want to do 2001 or 2000?
I do not care.
Okay.
One or the other.
Let's do the upgraded version.
Let's do both. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, it's cool because this game actually had the property, was able to use the NFL teams and things like that. So yeah, me and Weston at the start of this podcast played Madden 95, I believe, and woof, that game's so hard to play.
What we should play is Super Tecmo Bowl.
Yeah, we should eventually.
At some point.
That'd be fun.
That would be super fun.
Yeah, that'd be
super fun to play.
And you can get that game everywhere because it's been ported to everything. So.
Oh yeah. I think I can get it on my phone, just like in the App Store. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So, all right. So for now, let's do some NFL Blitz. I'm down with doing some 3D generation console sports game.
Let's do it.
Awesome, man. Well, as far as news goes, there hasn't been too much in the world
not really.
of video gaming because of everything that's going on in the world, and just like hope everybody's safe out there. Just saying that, so a lot of people have canceled. I know Madden was supposed to have their thing this week, and this would have been the week of E3, so a lot of really crazy stuff was supposed to apparently drop this week. But since everything going on in the world right now, they've postponed things, which is understandable. And but for tomorrow, we're recording on this on Wednesday, but on Thursday they are doing the PlayStation 5 press conference, which is going to give us hopefully all the details we've been waiting for on this. So
yeah, it's kind of about time.
Yeah.
I mean, it launches in like 4 or 5 months. I mean, it's bananas that they're waiting this long to even just unveil what the console looks like.
I know, man. They've done the controller and they gave us that little bit, but not enough.
Insane.
Not enough.
Insane. There's no price point. Yeah, and I know they've been kind of debating on what the price point's going to be because of world conditions with the COVIDs and the recession that we're now in, and all sorts of sad things that we don't really want to get into on the podcast because this isn't a political podcast. But I mean, it's just they've been toying with so much, and I know, like, I was reading that like Sony was even considering going back to their kind of quote unquote old console model of taking a loss on the console, because that's generally how consoles have always been released up until this last generation, is that the company will always take a loss on the console and make up for it in licensing and get a huge return on it in the licensing in the games. And more we've been seeing that isn't the case. So there's a good chance that they're probably going to drop the price on this from what it was originally intended to be, which was probably going to be like $500, and they'll probably sell it for $400, more than likely. Yeah, that would be my guess.
Yeah. So what would you get this console? 1 and 2?
No.
What would the price that would be like? Oh yeah, I'd get that.
So I won't get it because it's already outdated. I'll just say that.
Gotcha.
I'll just say it. It's already out of date. I'll tell you, man. I know this podcast is brought to you by Google Stadia, but like for real, I am so sick of trying to download 100 gigabyte games and all this garbage. I am so over it.
That's real stuff there, man. Like if they could figure out like a world of streaming that would be so much more
Yeah.
I don't know. It's already been figured out, but because Stadia is clearly doing it, and they can have whatever graphical level they want in it because it's streaming a video game onto a screen.
Exactly.
If you can run a 4K screen, you can run a 4K streamed video game.
Exactly. So. And that's the thing. It's just like there's just the only reason I would buy a PS5 is if there was like crazy exclusives that I needed to play. Like if they launched another Ratchet and Clank trilogy, I would buy a PS5. I would probably wait till all of them. Yeah, like I would probably wait till all of them were out, and the PS5 was like $200 or $300, in a year or two, a year or two down the road. You know what I mean? Like a Christmas bundle thing.
Yeah,
I would buy it then. But it would take a lot for me to buy it just because of the way games are going nowadays. They're so massive. I have a 500 gigabyte hard drive on my computer, and I have there's games that take up a large 15-20% of it. It's crazy. I can't do it anymore.
No.
ESO's coming out in a couple actually next week on Stadia, and I'm like, yes, sign me up. I will get it because it's 100 some odd gigabyte game that I don't feel like downloading all of that onto my computer.
Yeah.
Bananas.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it would take, I don't know if they have some kind of crazy, and people will be listening to this after the fact announcement, which I just can't see happening. They just don't, following the tradition of what they've done, unless they're like Spider-Man's launching with it. Final Fantasy VII Part 2's launching with it. I'm not getting it until it goes down in price, or I'm buying a bundle with Spider-Man 2 or Final Fantasy. So I probably will eventually end up getting one at some point, but for launch for me, it's not right at the top of my list because the PS4 is still gonna have some legs, so I'll be playing that with I play that Battle for the Grid game and some of my other games that I have. But I'm definitely getting, if I get Madden 21 this year, I'm getting on Stadia. I don't need I don't need to buy PlayStation 5 for Madden 21. It's not
absolutely
it's not top of list for me, to do that.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And I mean the PS5, it's cool, they're talking about how you have virtually non-existent load times, blah blah blah, and things like that. That's cool and all, but really I don't see it for me being necessarily a worthwhile investment.
Yeah.
We bought the PS4 at launch, and that was cool, but then a year or two later I got the PS4 Pro.
Yeah.
And it's just it outdates itself so quickly nowadays because of how fast PC gaming, or PCs in general, how quickly all of that is updated. There's no reason to buy a console anymore in 2020.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Especially at launch. I mean, people are console players, and I'm a console player too. I like the adventure aspect that console playing brings to a game, and I'm not necessarily everybody's oh, I love a keyboard and mouse, and I'm I'd rather just play with a controller. I'm not playing competitively, obviously, so
right. Well, and it depends on the game for me entirely. I mean, there's games that I just do not want to play with a keyboard and a mouse. But there are games that I will only play with a keyboard and mouse, and so it just really depends. And I love console gaming. Don't get me wrong. I mean, that's what I've always grown up on, and I will always continue to do. Like I said, I mean, my Stadia is a pseudo console essentially. I just mean the actual physical console with a 1 terabyte hard drive in it. That's gonna fit, what Modern Warfare 2 is 140 gigs, and then you can throw a few other games on there. That's what you got. That's it. And I just can't see that being a standard, the standard anymore. That just doesn't feel like it's any way progressive.
Yeah. I think for me, the only one of the big factors for console gaming is especially that PlayStation's made with the VR aspect of it. They've made an easy way to get into VR with some decent titles, that's not just the Samsung store that you can get these VR experiences on, But yeah, so they're gonna like need to come with a big VR expansion for me to upgrade, or like some awesome games, like. And I'm tired of buying Sony stuff at launch too, because I bought the PS4 at launch, had issues with the hardware. PS4 Pro at launch have issues with the hardware, so I'm definitely gonna wait for them to work all the kinks out as well, because my fan. I'm so over my fan on my PS4 Pro. It's so loud. It's so frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, Sony's never been as bad as Microsoft is as far as like hardware issues at launch, but yeah, it's not great for sure. Yeah. I know a lot of people had issues with the disk drives and things like that too. So
yeah, exactly. So, but with that said, I will be watching the announcement tomorrow, and we will be covering it next week. So tune in.
Absolutely.
Also, in other news, Stadia dropped a bunch of games for June, and they really did this at a good time too. This is a great marketing ploy for them to keep members, because they offered it free for 2 months, and back when they offered it, a lot of people signed up, and now their 2 months is almost over. So they drop a bunch of games for you to keep you on.
They put out 5 games
at once,
and they're all good.
Oh yeah, for sure.
They're all good games. I mean, like, I've played all of them. Panzer Dragoon is a little bit. I played the Panzer Dragoon remake. It's a little bit meh.
Yeah.
But everything else has been fun, and so they're putting Super Hot is incredible. By the way,
I love that game in VR. It's so much fun. It
is bananas. Oh my gosh, I love it. And they actually have the VR accessibility for Stadia, so when VR comes to Stadia, it will be available on
right on.
Super Hot for it.
Oh,
yeah, it's already in there.
That's awesome.
The code's in it and everything. Yeah, super cool. And then they're also, like I said, Elder Scrolls Online comes out next week. That is going to be Elder Scrolls Online, and the Morrowind expansion pack will be free for Pro members.
That's so awesome.
And there's no, I don't know, this is a little bit of a caveat. I don't know if there's going to be a monthly fee or not.
I don't think
However,
so. I don't think so. There's not one.
Well,
you just have to be a member of PlayStation Plus for the PlayStation version. So.
Oh, do you? Okay. Well, and I was gonna say, like, if you have Destiny 2 as a Stadia member, everything's free, including the season passes. They buy the season pass for you every season, so you never have to spend a dime on anything. The expansion pack, the new expansion pack coming out, you will have to purchase, but I mean, everything else has been completely free, which is insane. So I'm kind of feeling that's going to be the case with ESO. I know that, I think it's called Greymore is the new expansion pack that you will have to buy. That comes out, I think, today actually, or yesterday. But other than that, I mean, it's completely free to play, which is insane. I mean, and it's cross-play to PC too, which is huge. So
yeah, that's awesome. So I will be picking that up to play it. That's I haven't played Elder Scrolls Online, but that sounds really, really fun. So
it is. I played it when it first came out, like a million years ago, and it was fun. And they've just been making it better and better and better. Yeah. So I'm really excited to play it. Yeah, I really am. Yeah.
Nice. Awesome. Well, good stuff, man. Like, Stadia just continues, and this is like really the year of Stadia, honestly, because they're getting some big titles this year. Avengers is coming to Stadia. Some of these bigger games. So if they can just keep upgrading their servers, man, like, just keep it going, keep it grooving. So I'm all about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, me too, man. That's the thing. It's like, I know I'm such a fanboy for it right now, but really, like, as a dad with limited time,
for sure,
and it's cheaper. It's like the setup for it's less expensive. There's no download times. As long as your internet's up, you can play it. And I've had it since it launched, so in November. I've only had a single 4-hour window where I couldn't play it because my internet was down.
Yeah. And that was your fault. It wasn't their fault. Kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was the power line. The power line busted, or not the power line, but the cable line busted. So it wasn't even their issue.
Yeah, which is cool. So, and I definitely can tell they've done some work to their servers because it's way more stable. Like, we played Battle for the Grid crossplay. I was playing on PlayStation. You were playing on Stadia, and there was no hiccups for me. Like,
no
playing you. I mean, we were it was like we were in the same room playing. So
I was straight up blown away at how smooth that was, because I've had a lot of issues with playing fighting games online before, and it was so smooth. It was amazing.
Yeah, and just kind of as a side note, PlayStation's doing their Days of Play sale right now, so tons of stuff on sale. I picked up Injustice 2 for $4.99.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah, and then I picked up Dragon Ball Fighters for like $10. So a couple fighting games there, but there's a bunch of stuff there. So check that out too.
Yeah,
they do that every year, but
cool.
a lot of good deals. But yeah, so anyway, yeah, excited about that press conference, and Madden apparently has got something planned. That's all I've really heard of what's planned, but going down. But I'm sure there will be more stuff coming up. So
yeah,
Last of Us did a big thing the other day. That's coming out pretty soon, I think, right? Last of Us 2.
I think the game launches in
like next week, right?
Not much time. Yeah, I don't remember exactly when it comes out. Soon though, I think. Yeah.
So that'll be cool. But anyway, cool. Yeah, I think unless you have anything else, that's it for us this week. So
yeah, no, just go out and buy a Google Stadia and add me. It's just DINN. I have the Founders Edition name, so there's no hashtag afterwards. So yeah, add me on Stadia and we'll play together. It'll be fun.
Definitely. All right. Well, until next time, guys. Until next time. Until next time,
we'll see you next time.
Yeah. What is it? We'll press pause on this one, but you keep playing.
Is that your new sign off?
I don't know. I'm just trying things out.
All right, I like it. I'm gonna keep saying until next time. We'll see you next time. After whatever you say.
All right. I could do like Ryan Seacrest out. No, that didn't work either.
Nah. I mean, you could change your name to Seacrest legally. Change your first name to Seacrest though.
Oh, good times. All right, man. All right.
Are you still recording?
Yeah, I'm still recording. But...
Okay. All right. I'll just check. I'm still recording too. I wasn't sure.
All right. Well, I'm going to press pause now, but you guys keep playing. The end.
Yeah. Until next time. I'll see you next time.
If you'd like to send us a message, you can email us at kitgpodcast@gmail.com or tweet us at kitgpodcast on Twitter.